You're listening to Savor on the Jefferson Exchange. I'm your host, Will Smith, and my guest today is Kristin Pugh from the Rogue Valley Farm to School. She's co-executive director. And I have Taylor Solorzano-Madden, who is the garden educator at Rogue Valley Farm to School. Hi, you guys. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Kristin, I've been wanting to have your organization on for about the last 5 years. It is an amazing group, and you guys are involved in so many different avenues of creating activities for school-age kids in the Rogue Valley. You want to tell us a little bit about your programs?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Will. We really appreciate it. So one of our hallmark programs that we're most known by is what we call our Digging Deeper partnership. With this school partnership, we work with 8 schools in the Valley, all of the elementary schools in the Phoenix Talent School District and Central Point School District. And what we bring to them is we upkeep a school garden as a living classroom for everybody to use, as well as providing an hour-long garden class every week for a specific grade range, which is usually 3rd or 4th grade. And in that garden class, they not only learn how to plant and harvest food and plant parts and ecology and botany and all of these wonderful things, but they also learn how to scratch cook, knife skills, and nutrition. And then once a month, we bring a local seasonal harvest to the cafeteria for our Harvest of the Month tasting table program, where the whole school gets to try the fruit or vegetable that we've brought that month.
I was curious, how does this come about? Do you approach the schools or vice versa?
That's a great question. This started in Phoenix Talent, and then we expanded into Central Point. Right. And I think we originally approached them. We do get approached by other schools that we do educational programming at, but maybe not this whole partnership with. Sure. We're always open to expanding it throughout the Valley, but this is where we started.
And Taylor, how did you get involved with the garden aspect?
Yeah, so it was a really funny happenstance. I actually met one of my fellow teachers about a year before I started here, Elise Frommer, and we ran into each other on a hike, and she was telling me about this amazing job that she was doing. And I thought to myself, wow, that's incredible. I hope I get to do something like that someday. And about a year later, I saw a job posting, and I applied for it, and
that was
here I am. Totally,
right.
Yeah.
So great. Okay, so in addition to digging deeper, what else?
Yeah, so we do education, and then we also have what we call a procurement side to our organization. And that is where we work with, right now, about 22 local food producers and 24 local school districts, charter schools, and early education centers, working sort of as a conduit between the farmers and the school meal programs.
This is my favorite part.
Mine too.
I mean, it's so great. It's so great for the kids, nutrition, and so good for the farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a weekly availability list that we call around to all the farmers and say, hey, what do you have this week? And then we send it out to the school nutrition directors. And then we also help them, the school nutrition directors, navigate different grant programs that help subsidize the extra cost that, of course, is associated with buying small, local farmed food. And then sometimes it even comes down to loading up buckets of pickles in our back seat and driving them to the school or whatnot. So we're really hands-on, just getting the food from the farmers into the school meals and then into these children. So then they have a nice, nutrient-dense, palatable, delicious lunch and breakfast that really sets them up for a great learning experience throughout the day.
And in addition to that, if that's not enough, you're also doing field trips as well with the students.
Yeah, we bring them out onto working farms.
So same schools that you're doing the other educational aspects for? And is that part of it, or?
Yeah, so that's part of it. We bring them out in the fall, and then we bring them out in the spring. So they get to see the farm both in the fall when everything's being harvested and then in the spring when everything's being planted. We basically break them up into groups. They rotate throughout the different stations, harvesting food, looking at different animals and learning about animal husbandry or compost, depending on which site we're at. And then we have an outdoor kitchen where they all work together to create a communal meal that they sit down and eat at the end of it. And then, so that is for all of our partner classes in the Digging Deeper Partnership. And then we also do younger field trips too for like pre-K to kindergarten, sometimes first grade, in the fall and the spring. In the fall, they go and they harvest a pumpkin, and in the spring, they get to sort of do a sensory experience in the field.
Have you done any research, like how much exposure they've had to real food?
Yeah, so what we have found, and actually the Rogue Valley Food System Network just put out a community food assessment that has a lot of that information in it. And what we have found is that, yes, a lot of the children, especially in the schools that we work in, which are all Title I schools, the kids are not necessarily receiving this education and this exposure at home. And over 17% of our local children are experiencing food insecurity at home. So we know that school meals are a really important lifeline for these kids to get food into their body throughout the day.
And it's for me, I've had this experience of I used to summer out in Long Island, and I'd be at checkout, and there'd be all these young kids working at the grocery store, and they didn't know the produce I was buying. And so I would always give them tastes of things just because I feel like if you taste it, then you know it, which I think is so amazing.
Absolutely. And I think, Taylor, you could probably speak to this and in your classes, what you're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times the joy and surprise that I see from kids about where their food is coming from, that really makes the job. I think of a particular anecdote. I was having kids harvest lettuce for a salad that we were making. And one boy, he picked a leaf just the way that I showed him to. And I said, you can take a bite of it if you want. Taste how it tastes right out of the ground. And he took a bite and he said, oh my gosh, this tastes like salad.
No, it's exposure, exposure, exposure.
Absolutely.
I wanted to remind everybody you're listening to Savor on the Jefferson Exchange. I'm Will Smith. My guest is Rogue Valley Farm to School. Kristin and Taylor are here. I love this lesson of growing, harvesting, and then giving them the opportunity to actually taste things. It's such a missing bit of life for so many kids.
Yeah, not many people have home gardens anymore, or the space to do so, right? Like the way that
Or the time.
or the time or
Or
the
the money.
know-how or the money. Yeah, there's so many barriers to that. So that's really why the model of working within public schools came about for our organization, because we have found that this is a really egalitarian way to access nearly all of the children in the Rogue Valley, because they're there for their school day. We do all of our program within the school day, so there's no busing requirements or, parents need to take off from work early or pick them up late or anything like that. Like, all the students are getting this education within their school day, and it's really built into that. And we also see that it really helps kids. There's all this talk about brain breaks during the day, right? And it really helps kids get that energy out, get their hands in the soil. And oftentimes the kids that really struggle in a classroom setting are the ones that are thriving in the garden. And because their classroom teacher, not our garden educator teacher, but their classroom teacher is out there with them in the garden, they also get to experience these kids in a different way, in a different environment. And it really fosters a much stronger connection between the kids and their classroom teachers, as well as all the added benefits of getting outside and learning where their food comes from. And, you just keep piling on all these different benefits to it.
Something that we spoke about last week when I was talking to you, the whole idea of cafeteria, I think would be surprising for a lot of people what is actually happening at many schools and the sort of lack of quality compared to when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, I've been with this organization now for 3 years. And when I came in, I truthfully didn't really know much about school food. And it was a wake-up call for me.
Sure.
There are many school cafeterias that don't actually have the capacity to cook a full meal at this point, because what they're doing is basically it's all reheat and serve, where they sort of have centralized locations all throughout the country, and they are making like these big frozen platters of food that then get batched to the school, heated up and then served to the kids. So what we're trying to do is kind of disrupt that. Not only do local ingredients, of course, taste delicious and are wonderful on the salad bar and provide great economic benefits for our region as well, but it also brings in an element of scratch cooking where it kind of forces the cafeterias to have to actually cook. And Central Point is a really great example of this.
Shout her out.
Yeah, Ann Levins at Central Point. We love you. You're doing a great job. And they are making all of their pan breads in-house. They scratch cook every single day. They are buying loads of fresh produce, everything from peaches to jams to flowers to, all different kinds of things.
Good.
And really getting these kids delicious, healthy meals every single day.
So did want you to touch on some events that you have coming up in June?
Yeah, I'm excited. We have our annual benefit concert, which is titled Turn Up the Beat.
Yes.
That's going to be at Fry Family Farm on June 22nd from 4 to 8. On our website and our socials, you can pick up your tickets there. It's $25 for adults. Kids get in free. We're going to have some local bands, local food, and it's going to be a really great time.
Great. And then summer camp?
Yes, and we also are doing a summer camp, 3 weeks of summer camp this year with the Ashland Food Co-op, where the kids do cooking lessons 2 days at the co-op classroom, and then 2 days out at the SOU farm, harvesting and cooking outside and doing all sorts of really fun things.
So great.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you probably dream of grant writing most nights.
Probably.
Yeah,
Dreams are nightmares. I'm not sure.
And you guys are getting hit by funding right now, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, our region at large just lost about $500,000 worth of funding for local foods in schools.
Right.
Our organization, a grant program through the USDA was just cut, and so about 10% of our annual budget for the next 2 years also was cut with that.
So I urge our listeners to take a look at your website because I think it's such a great organization. I love it. And it's really important work. I think, we had the culinary director of Ashland High School on. Same kind of thing. It's just this exposure of a joy of growing things, cultivating things, harvesting things, cooking things.
Yeah.
Makes for happy people.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And having access to these foods really and truly make it so it's easier for these kids to learn and emotionally regulate. And, we know about the gut emotional connection that is happening. And we need to feed our bodies these nutrient-dense foods to really be able to be our best selves. And that goes doubly so for children. So the kids that really don't have access to this at home, it really helps them to have it at school. So thank you.
And are you looking for volunteers as well?
Always. Always. Yes. We need all kinds of volunteers, whether you want to hang out with kids and feed them vegetables or dig in the dirt or help us with data entry. There is a volunteer position for you.
Are you looking for farms?
Yeah, we're always looking for farms to partner with as well that are looking to sell to schools. Actually, later in the week, we have our procurement gathering at Rusted Gate where we're getting together school nutrition directors and farmers all together in one place.
That's an inspired idea.
Thank you.
That's so good.
Yeah, every year we put one on.
It's all about meeting the right person for another person. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And bringing people together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to compare notes.
That's exactly what it is. Yep. Our trials, our failures, all of that, putting it together and learning from one another and making the connections that all make this possible because it's truly a network of community members that make all of this work possible.
Yeah. So all listeners, check out the Rogue Valley Farm to School website because that's where all your details are. I'm so happy. Kristin Pugh and Taylor Solorzano-Madden. She's the garden educator at Rogue Valley Farm to School. Thank you guys so much for being our guest today.
Thanks so much for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us.
You've been listening to Savor on the Jefferson Exchange. My name is Will Smith. You can find us at jx.org and on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Eat well.